Namaste Mishra. Welcome to Scholastic Conversations. This is season one, and we're talking about books and kids and reading, all our favorite subjects to talk about. We'll just start with a quick introduction. If you can just tell us a little about yourself, please.
I'm Aditi Mishra. I'm a career educator for the past 35 years. I have been with one school for all this time, so I guess I have grown deep roots. I'm a voracious reader. I'm very fond of music and dance. I also write. I've written a couple of books for children, some academic and some non-academic. And I think the joy of being with children is unsurpassed. So I have continued to serve in the field of education for several years. And I can't imagine being anywhere else.
Right. And since you said you were a voracious reader, who were your favorite authors growing up?
Oh, in my time, I think we lived on Enid Blyton. For some reason, not many people read her anymore. But for me, my world revolved around Enid Blyton and the Five Findouters and then the Secret Seven and all those storybooks, the Red Storybook, the Blue Storybook, and the Hollow Tree House. All those were part of my growing up years.
Right. And what are you reading right now?
I have a very strange habit. I read two books together. I don't know why, but it's been a habit for a while. So I'm actually reading Sudha Murthy's The Day I Stopped Drinking Milk, this one. And I'm reading another very interesting book which came out last year, The Moment of Lift.
The kids.
It's about, mainly about women empowerment and giving them a place in the sun.
Right. And how do you think reading helps in times like these?
Well, for me, reading helps in all times. We grew up with the adage that books are your best friends, and I always say they are actually your best friends. They'll never be angry with you. They'll never go away on holiday without you. They will be there, come hell, come high water. If the electricity goes, your TV will stop, but your books won't. So, especially in times like these, when you cannot really go out, and that entertainment factor which was in going out has been taken away for a bit. I think we need to seek entertainment, joy, upliftment from books. Nothing uplifts you more than reading a good book. That's my idea.
I agree. And how do you think leisure reading impacts academics?
I think reading in any form impacts academics because firstly, a child who's a reader is a patient person. He can wait. It's not like, instant gratification. It automatically builds vocabulary because when you read, you get to know new books, new ideas, new words. And I think there's nothing that can replace that learning. No comics can give that. No TV can give that. So the very fact that a child can sit and read and know more words and imagine, the word picture that are created in the mind, I think is irreplaceable and will always help the academic sphere as well.
Share your memories of a visit to a book fair or a bookshop when you were young.
Okay, I'm pretty old. So in my time, the schools did not have book fairs as such. But schools had libraries. And no prizes for guessing. Who happened to be one of my favorite teachers was the librarian of the school. She was exceedingly fond of me because she knew that if there's ever a free period or there's little time, I'm going to run into the library. We used to have very interesting bookshops wherever we went. For me, we grew up with a certain amount of discipline, so we couldn't just go and pick up a book and say, I want this. So we always had to be asked by my mother, told by my mother that, okay, you can pick up 2 books and that's it. You can't have 5 books if you may want them. And this will go beyond a minute. If I can just share a childhood memory of mine. Someone once asked me in one of the interviews, the children asked me, your happiest childhood memory. So I told them, it was the day I got measles. So they said, why? I said, because then I had to be in bed and my mother opened her steel cupboard and took out 5 Enid books and gave them to me to read while I was in bed. And then all the neighbors came and gave me 2 books each. So that was the happiest moment. I didn't want my measles to go away at all because I would get books every day and I would be able to read them.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Okay, 3 skills you think that reading inculcates in children?
Well, certainly vocabulary building, communication, and imagination. because the visual has to be created by you. You and I may read the same text and visualize it differently. And all these three skills are considered 21st century skills, are skills which help in academics and in generally in life.
And what is your take on the role of a library or a librarian in your school?
The library is actually for many children the happiest place because they get into their world of books, they can borrow books. We have tried to keep it a little unstructured, that if a child wants to return a book between the library periods, which is once a week, he or she is allowed to do so. If they want to take another book in the middle of the week, that is also allowed. The librarian has to be the most welcoming and the most happy person in the school because her space is a little flexible. In every other subject, there are certain streamlines, there are certain boundaries. In the library, should be no boundary. Anyone should be able to walk in, take a book. The librarian should know which is the newest book, which has just come in the market. So we do have a system where we ask the children to suggest books. How many should we buy? Which ones should we buy? So the good readers are able to tell us. Readers, when they tell us that this book is coming, please get at least 10 copies because 2 copies will not suffice. So I like that empowerment to the children as well.
Right. Do you see this role changing post-COVID? Do you see a change coming?
I think we should have more readers because in the pandemic, if nothing else, children have learned to pick up skills which they did not have. And principals like me have been sort of goading gently that learn something new, learn something you didn't do something you didn't have time for earlier. So usually children would say, "Ma'am, I love reading, but I don't get time." You have all the time in the world now.
Yeah.
And a family that reads together builds up a certain learning environment which is going to be there for the rest of their lives. And I speak from experience when I say this.
And how has online education been for you in your school? How has the entire experience been?
Okay, that's a tough one. We were pushed into it because I somehow, when I read about the pandemic on the 16th of March, I remember the dates well, I somehow sensed that this is going to come into our country and we will have a lockdown. I didn't imagine it would be 4 months long, to be honest. I thought it would be 15, 20 days. I don't know why I thought that. Very silly thought, but still, I mean, for me it was just the 31st of March. But we got into action immediately. We did not lose a single day in training teachers or in starting our classes. And I must say that while we began with baby steps, faltering steps, we goofed up. But I must thank every teacher across the globe for reinventing herself, unlearning a lot of stuff, relearning a lot of stuff. I must thank the parents for their patience and the children, senior children who helped us. Each time we would falter or do something silly, they would tell us, "Please press this button and just hold the tab down, it will work, don't worry." So that collaboration, which was so far not known, suddenly came into life. And online teaching is something we've embraced now with happiness because there's no other way. I mean, unless we want to stop education of all kinds and just sit at home and not learn anything, that's the only other option. If that is not an option, then online teaching, learning is the only way forward and we have to embrace it. We have to keep training ourselves to do something even better. And I think teachers are really getting there because the first ingredient of willingness is there in every teacher, I feel.
That's an amazing story. Thank you. And one last question. Any quick tip to motivate our young readers?
Okay, as a school, we have, as you know, we have book fairs where we encourage children, we bring them down. There's a proper ceremony of inaugurating it and we give them a wish list which is given by the publishers. Scholastic does it beautifully. The children make their wish lists. We encourage parents that instead of going and buying another toy or a video game, just buy some more books because it's going to help the child. Within the class, we have a good reader club. So the children share their stories of how many books they've read, what they've read. And, children can be very competitive. So if a child, they come to know that the child is just, pulling a fast one. They ask me questions. You read the book? Okay, who was this person in that?
Yeah.
And why did someone say this to that person? So they get, they are answerable, they are accountable. So a little star is given to them. When they have accumulated a certain number of stars, they get a badge saying good reader. And every quarter, the librarian takes them to some fun library or to some fun publishing house where they for a reader, that's the ultimate, to go into a space where they can just get into books and enjoy them. So that's
nice.
what we do, and we keep encouraging them to even exchange among themselves. We run a school for the underprivileged, so we encourage children to give away not just their toys and their old clothes, but also books which they may have read. And if they don't want to read, there are some books you want to read again and again.
Yeah.
There are some books that you want to just keep because they have some sentimental value. But there are hundreds of books which you buy in the year which you can just give away. So just give those away, and the children of the less privileged homes are able to read them. And that gives me a lot of joy. When a child who does not have access to books suddenly has 5 books because somebody who was kind enough to give them to him as help and support.
That's wonderful. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. This has been a delightful conversation. Thank you so much.
Lovely meeting you.